أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والأكبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الجهل والوهم إلى أنوار المعرفة ومن أخول الشهوات إلى جنات القربات على رسولنا محمد صلوات اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد بعدد دارات الكائنات ومراقباتها أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to another lecture of the Risale al-Nur, and today we are going to look at the Tafseer of the Basmala in the framework of the Risale al-Nur and how important it is in our lives as Muslims. We are going to go deep into the power of the invocation of Bismillah and the weight and impact it has in our daily lives and activities. We are also going to look at how it binds us to our Creator and hence what it teaches us on the relationship we should have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So inshallah, I hope this is going to be beneficial for all of us, and may Allah make us all attentive. Ameen. So brothers and sisters, what is Bismillah? Universally accepted, Bismillah is a great symbol of Islam in a world as we know it. It honestly goes without saying that it is only Muslims and no one from any other religion or denomination says Bismillah. The Basmala then is a super unique invocation that belongs to only the Muslims. So just by saying it is already a declaration of someone's Islam and that they are at least a worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Second, Second is that it is the beginning of all goodness, directly and indirectly. Honestly, whoever wants to do good, they will be oriented to saying Bismillah, and nobody normally with even the slightest of haya will dare say Bismillah with the intention of something evil. So clearly, we bind all our good deeds with Bismillah. Bismillah is also an immense power that is never exhausted. How powerful then is Bismillah? We are going to look at this with the aid of an allegory called the allegory of the desert traveler. How is Bismillah an immense power that is never exhausted? So the allegory of the desert traveler speaks of a man, a Bedouin, at that who went traveling into the desert. This man had two choices for his journey. First, he could travel as an affiliated man, bounded by protection and authorized to partake in any activities as he wishes by a tribal chief. Basically, that can be a Bedouin chief or a ruler in the desert. He so had the license to travel in the name of the chieftain, this affiliated traveler. The second choice this man had was to travel unaided and on his own might and facilities, that is. So we are going to look at these two instances and see the consequences of both choices as laid out for him, insha'Allah. So two men go traveling in the desert. The first man, that is the first instance, is the conceited man who traveled unaided and traveled on his own might. This man does not submit to any authority in the desert and hence endures unspeakable tribulations and problems. He is subjected to a humble situation where he keeps on begging, and he keeps on encountering so many problems, and he keeps on begging just to survive his journey, and even the simplest of tasks and activities become so magnified for him. For this reason then he ends up degraded, abased, and wretched in the worst forms possible. Simply, he faces like a rough time in the desert on his own. The second man is an affiliated man who decides to travel in the name of the Bedouin or desert chief. He submits to the chief's authority, and so he enjoys protection from all sorts of hindrances and disturbances to his activities in the desert. This man travels freely and is able to interact with other travelers in the desert without fear of persecution or discrimination of any kind. For the respect of the chief who gave him his license, no one then dares touch him or approach him with any harm. The second man finds honor in the chieftain. He is honored because he takes the name of the chief. So he roamed freely everywhere and no one basically touched him. And if any of us would be asked to pick sides in these two situations, most would, of course, without thinking twice, choose the affiliated man's side because of the numerous benefits and comfort this affiliation brings with it. So, brothers and sisters, this is exactly what happens when we choose to say Bismillah or not when undertaking our activities in this world. From a modern perspective, this can also be the example of a tourist in a country with direct affiliation to the head of state of that particular country he is traveling in. Imagine if you were to be given a license written by the president himself, giving you all rights to access all places in the country free of charge, and an order with that for every citizen to give you any assistance necessary to you. Honestly, this will be a golden ticket to a very smooth travel in that particular state. This is exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does for us when we say Bismillah. In reality, the allegory can be used to infer to the following. The chief or ruler or president of the desert or country or that particular jurisdiction can be used to infer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who, when we rely upon and travel in the desert or country, this country can be inferred to as the world we live in. So the traveler, in the other hand, is used to infer to our lower self. And in reality, the message of the allegory is that we gain an unimaginable power, maybe comfort and ease in our daily transactions just by invocation of the Basmala. Who then do you think will not want this type of affiliation? Honestly, all of us would want this type of license, that we are free from all harm, we are free from any tribulation, just because we are backed up by a supreme ruler. So in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is as easy as saying Bismillah. You don't have to go to, uh, you know, get a written communication from the president, or now go to the troubles of visiting the chief and explaining to him your situation. All we have to say, brothers and sisters, is just Bismillah. And Warabul Kaaba, you will be under the perfect dominion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another example we can use here is the example of an army commander. This army commander is able to command thousands of troops who follow his orders without question or defiance of any kind. Does this mean then that he is that powerful? If this man decided to harm him as a single person, all against one, would he be able to actually subjugate all of them and be superior to them? Of course not. They would harm him easily, but they do not do so. But what they do instead is they obey all his orders and they do not show even the slightest of defiance. So I'm going to ask you a question. Why then do they do that? This commander is only able to do so with the power of the state. He is working on behalf of the state, and that is his source of power. Whoever defies this order will be defying the order of the state, and from there the state would have absolute power to execute any disciplinary action on him. Maybe the commander is the one who is going to do this on behalf of the state also, but my point here is that this commander is only able to subjugate, or is only able to command his army by the power that is given to him by the state. This is also an example that can be likened to the example of the allegory of the desert traveler. Another example is an example of a traffic police officer. So as you can see, this is a traffic police officer who is able to direct traffic effectively and even issue traffic offenders with fines. So does that mean that he is so powerful and he has the keys to all the traffic, and that he has the keys to all the traffic at that particular time? The answer is absolutely no. So clearly, people obey him, or traffic users obey him, drivers obey him, because he is acting in the power of the state. So all the existing beings basically say Bismillah. If you were to see a single individual who would come along and forcibly drive out all the inhabitants in a king's territory wearing uniform affiliated to the king, like the traffic officer's uniform in this case, you would understand that he is relying on the power bestowed on him by the king. He will not be doing this in his own might. And this police officer is able to direct the traffic, and he is able to do everything that he does in his power based on the power that is granted to him by the state or by the governing authority. So this also can be used as an example, same as the example of the allegory of the desert traveler. So one would ask then, yes, Bismillah is that powerful, but why do we need to invoke it that much? What places us at the doors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seeking for his mercy and pleasure? Why is it so then? This is so important, brothers and sisters, so kindly listen carefully. Human beings, as we know them, are faced with immense weakness and poverty. We cannot afford even our own lives. For instance, we cannot keep ourselves alive. Actually, we have not cracked the secret to life, even with our advanced technologies in the medical sciences and all the relevant sciences that can help us maybe discover how to keep ourselves alive for a very long time. And we cannot control what happens with even the trillion cells in our bodies, trillions of cells in our bodies. So this places us at extreme neediness, brothers and sisters. Second, we cannot provide for ourselves. We cannot afford to manufacture our food from scratch. We do not have the power to create it. For instance, if we brought all scientists to create 1 grain of rice out of nothing, they will not be able to do so in eternity. That is the truth. If we collected all professors and everyone with all the geniuses and the people who are masters in sciences and manufacturing and biology and chemistry, they will not be able to produce 1 grain of rice out of nothing. Right? What we do is just replicate our food, we plan, and we we maybe cultivate, and Allah makes it possible to grow. So one can argue maybe in this argument that we do have technology maybe for genetically modified organisms, that is GMO food, and we have the power to bring new variants of food. But even that is merely shaping what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already created. This means that we are in dire need of a source of power and a source of provision that is flawless, all powerful, and never ending. This source of provision that is flawless, all powerful, and never ending is to sustain our limitless powerlessness and poverty. From the explanation that I've given, it is so clear that we are faced by limitless powerlessness and poverty. So then, this neediness binds us to the endless power and source of mercy. Since we are this needy, since we are this powerless, and since we have this much poverty, we need an endless source of power and an endless source of provision. And through this, uh, through uh, through this powerlessness and poverty, Bismillah hence becomes a true and a valid intercessor. So by invoking Bismillah sincerely, we acknowledge our neediness, and this intercedes for us in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all tasks at hand. Why then would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the source of mercy, fail us after such submission and acknowledgement that He is the source of power and the all-powerful and the source of all provision that will ever get to us? Why then would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the source of mercy, fail us after such submission, brothers and sisters? Allah will grant us success, and this is the power of Bismillah. This is the power of saying Bismillah. But Bismillah is not limited to humans only. It is also the invocation of everything in the universe. It is the invocation of every single thing. Let us look at how this is manifested in actual examples. So Bismillah. Look at the vegetation as displayed. You would ask yourself, how can a small seed as tiny as you can see from the skin, as you can see from the screen, give rise to the huge trees as shown on the left side? How can this small seed give rise to these huge trees, probably a million times its own weight and size? How does this happen? Is this seed that powerful? Does it have so much knowledge? Does the seed have that much intellect and intelligence to give rise to something that is way far beyond its size and its size? Does the seed have that much intellect and intelligence to give rise to a very huge uh, structure like a tree, as shown in the slide? So where does this seed gain its power from? Where is its source of power? Clearly, this inanimate seed is not that powerful. It is so helpless actually compared to even the weakest of human beings. But it can do what most of us can't do. We cannot give rise to trees, but this minute seed can do that. Clearly, it is able to do so with the help of a supreme or a superior being, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is like this seed says Bismillah in its own way, and Allah gives it the power to grow huge trees and give all the information of how it will grow, its height, color, and the color of leaves, the size of leaves, the types of leaves, the type of fruits it will produce, their taste, and also their smell. It does so over and over and over again without ever making a mistake or getting confused. This is the power of Bismillah, brothers and sisters. By the power of Bismillah, this seed is able to do something that if one of us maybe did, it will be a miracle. Another example is the example of fruits and vegetables. They all have a different taste, maybe texture, smell, color. So how are they like this without confusion or mixture? They are of course not intelligent. Uh, they are, of course they do not have the intelligence that maybe human beings have. They do not have the intelligence to establish this order and perfection like that. They only do so through the power of Bismillah, brothers and sisters. It is like the fruits say Bismillah and are able to produce what even the humans cannot replicate. Allah has blessed us with all these delicious fruits and vegetables and has converted all gardens to His kitchens through the power of Bismillah, brothers and sisters. All fruits and all vegetables, every and each one of them submits to the power of Bismillah and are able to do the wonders as we see in nature with the power of Bismillah. Another example is milk. Look, another example is, so look at the animals. What do they have in common? They all eat grass, yes, and leaves and drink water. So they basically just eat green matter and drink water, and that's just it. And from these two components, they are able to produce milk. So I would like to pose a question. What technology do they possess to be able to do this? If we, for instance, assembled all professors of the world from, name them, from Ivy League universities and give them a task of creating a single drop of milk from scratch without using any of Allah's resources, will they be able to do so? No, they will not be able to do so. Not even in 1,000 years. They will not be able to produce a single drop of milk. How then is a camel or a goat or a cow and a sheep able to produce this nutritious food? Would we say then they graduated from Oxford University, maybe Department of Milk Engineering, to produce this milk? Or did they communicate? They took handsets and mobile phones and called each other in a Zoom meeting and said, brothers, or is it sisters, we need to agree on a constant milk recipe and stick to this secret formula. Did they do such a thing? No, they didn't do any of the things I just mentioned. So how does a creature with a very small intellect and intelligence compared to ours able to produce milk with the most able to produce milk which the most intelligent among us cannot collaborate and produce? This basically shows us that only a superior being is able to give them this gift. They are able to draw this ability from a superior being. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given animals such a gift, what about us humans, the best of creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willing to give us when we invoke sincerely to Him? Bismillah. Or when we invoke sincerely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be able to give us power to perform unimaginable tasks. Brothers and sisters, Allah says in the Quran, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. We created man in the best design. So, if creatures below humans can do this, if creatures below humans can produce such a nutritious liquid, which is milk, with the power bestowed upon them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what then can we do if we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely? What do you think we will be able to achieve, brothers and sisters? Another example is the example of roots. These fine and tender, hairy-like features of trees are able to penetrate hard ground before they grow to become stronger in an amazing way, really. If we were to be challenged and do the same with our hands, this would have been a painful experience, and even if we succeeded with that, we would not do it with the efficiency the plants do it with. But they are able to do so with the power of Bismillah. They rely on their creator, and that is their source of power. So technically, they say Bismillah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says kun fayakun. Allah creates it for them. This can be compared to the portion of the ayah, idrib bi'asaka al-hajar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Musa alayhi salam to hit the rock with his staff, and water gushed out of the rock for Bani Israel to drink. This is the power of reliance and submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this would not have been possible if Allah did not make it possible for Musa alayhi salam. Another instance is the green plants which survive the scorching sun of the desert and semi-arid areas. Normally, we use air conditioning devices and machines for us to make the desert habitable. We create some form of shelter for us to withstand the heat in the desert. But look at the different green plants in the desert. They bear all the heat and even manage to produce fruits like dates, which we enjoy eating. So who sustains them? Why can't we do the same as human beings? Why can't we go and sit in the scorching sun for 12 hours and still be able to keep our skin supple and to keep our skin healthy and to prevent maybe the burns from our skins, the way these plants do it, the way these plants withstand the heat of the desert? Wallahi, this is evidence that with the invocation of Bismillah, impossibility is converted to endless possibilities. These plants are only able to do so with the power that has been bestowed to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This reminds us of the verse of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ. O fire, be coolness and peace, be coolness and safety for Ibrahim. Bismillah is also a grace that will never pass away, brothers and sisters. As we all know, we have been blessed immensely before we even got the ability to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our sustenance was decreed upon by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 50,000 years before the creation of the heavens and the earth. How then would a creator this generous ever take a blessing given to us without us even asking? Because it is possible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove the blessings and the blessings he placed on us and replace them with punishments. This is possible, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Arhamur Rahimin. He gave us a simple recipe of keeping these blessings. which is just submission to Him through the Basmala. Allah gave us the Basmala as a gift towards earning His mercy. So then, if we link His everlasting mercy to our everlasting neediness, we are secure of a source of mercy that will never ever end. We are secure of a source of mercy which is infinite. At this point, brothers and sisters, I'm going to ask a question. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then requires from us from all these blessings and bounties and mercies and favors? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Rahman, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. Which of the favors of your Lord will you then deny? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a lot already and is willing to give us even more, brothers and sisters. But what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala require from us? What is the best way of saying Bismillah? Do you just say it as mere words? How do we make our Basmala sincere in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We are going to answer this question with another question. So to answer the question that what exactly does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want from us, I'm going to ask a question. When buying a bunch of bananas, say 10 or 11 bananas, what exactly determines the total amount of money we give to the retailer? There will be a couple of factors. So we can say the factors will be like cultivating the bananas in the farm. Another one will be irrigating the banana trees, and then we would harvest the bananas. Say this would cost an average of 30 Kenyan shillings for the 11 bananas. Other factors would be, say, transportation, packaging, presentation. That will cost us like a total of 50 Kenyan shillings. The other factors to conclude all of this would be branding and maybe stocking, advertising, and everything that happens for the banana to be retailed. Maybe also say that costs like 20 Kenyan shillings. So we have a total of 100 shillings. The total cost for the 10 bananas is 100 shillings for those 10 bananas. So I would then ask, so far we have paid the people who serve. So far we have paid the people who serve in the cultivation, irrigation, collection, transportation, stocking, and delivery of bananas for their fatigue and work. And I would like to pose then this question: did we really pay for the real value of the banana? Did we really pay for the value of the bananas? Sorry, but we did not pay for the value of the banana. We just paid for the process of getting the banana on our tables, but for the actual value, we did not pay. I'm saying this because a banana and everything with that similarity is not something we can afford. So we do not have the technology to create a banana. We cannot assemble artificially a banana. We cannot assemble artificially a banana the same way a banana tree does it. This is impossible for us. Therefore, technically, we enjoy this food creation technology free of charge. Take for instance a tech company making mobile devices. Take for example Apple. One single high-tech mobile device goes for averagely, iPhones will cost an average of $1,000. I know the latest can cost even as high as $2,000 in some countries. So can you imagine if a banana was manufactured by them, created by them from scratch, how much would it cost? It would be super expensive. It would be very, very expensive. They will take pride in it and sell it at very high prices. But as we have seen it, it only costs an average of 10 shillings, 10 Kenyan shillings for one single banana. In dollars, that would just be cents. So, so we pay a price to those who have no greater role than simply displaying merchandise. So what price does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ask? The true owner of all goods. So brothers and sisters, this is the answer. In return for these precious benefactions and goods, the true benefactor asks three things of us. At the beginning, Allah asks of remembrance. At the beginning is the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is simply saying Bismillah. When we say Bismillah, we have remembered, we have done dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we should remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be conscious of Him Jalla Jalalu. Next is, and at the end of our activities is gratitude. So we should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for making whatever we are doing possible. This is in Arabic shukr, and it is the gratitude towards Allah's blessings. It is acknowledging that we are weak and poor and powerless, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them to us as a blessing, and not necessarily that we deserve them from Him. In between remembrance, that is the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and shukr, giving gratitude for the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in between these two is contemplation. It is the contemplation of the whole realm of Allah's dominicality and blessings. So listen here carefully, brothers and sisters. Contemplation is often misunderstood to just thinking of Allah and the blessings we get from Him, but this is just a shallow part of it. Tafakkur, as it is put in Arabic, is the acknowledging totally of the power and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not just merely thinking about them. This is to give due respect to the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to consume them in a way that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If a king sends a messenger with a letter as a gift to you, you would carry this gift with utmost care. You would really treasure this gift from the king. You would read this letter and reread it again and again to just get clearly exactly what the king had to say to you personally. If the same letter was to be sent by a normal civilian, you would take time and just read it, but this would not be as grand or as special as the letter from a king or a president or someone of high esteem in that regard. What would you think of someone then who receives a gift from a king through a messenger, and they started hugging the messenger and giving him so much of undue praise and love? What do you think? What would you think of this person? This would not make sense, honestly, because they just delivered a message, and those aren't even their words. The words written in that letter are from the king and not the words from the messenger. So they just deserved a mere thank you for your delivery, and off they would go, right? So if we praise the messenger more than the true owner of the letter or the true owner of the gift, this would be, this would have no difference with insanity, honestly. So from the example of the bananas, then we should not make the price we pay for the mere processing and logistic services, we should not make this price we pay for these simple acts the ultimate price and forget the true owner of the blessings and the most deserving of praise. Because praising and showing affection for the people apparently bestowing blessings while forgetting the ultimate real benefactor is an example of insanity a thousand times, even a thousand times more extreme than what the example we have just given. So, brothers and sisters, this is the true meaning of tafakkur or contemplation of Allah's blessings and mercy. So, brothers and sisters, as we come to the end of our class today, I'm going to tell you to do the following sincerely, with absolute and true conviction, because this is the source of endless power and endless mercy to our endless mercy and poverty. So, brothers and sisters, I will tell you then to give in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, take in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and begin in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And lastly, in everything that you do, act in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, brothers and sisters, we have come to the end of our class, and that is the power of the Basmala. That is the power of saying Bismillah. I hope this is going to be beneficial to you. I hope most of us have benefited. For everything that I've said wrongly, I stand to be corrected. And see you next time, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.